I'm here at the Inside Legal IT event with Mark Craddock, Director of Sales EMEA at NetDocuments. Mark, thank you for coming along.
Hi Charles.
Right, NetDocuments, what are you going to be showing here? What are you showing here at the moment? And I believe this will be the first show where you've had the new email system.
That's correct, yeah. So, do you know what's really interesting about today? A couple of larger law firms have come up to me and literally said the question, why NetDocuments? And that's just obviously a great way to start. And what I've found just in engaging in firms in the UK, excuse me, in the UK just in this year,
yeah,
they kind of fall into two discrete camps. You have what tends to be perhaps the smaller, say 50 to 250, 300 size law firm, that it's got to the point where they realise that managing their own infrastructure and having all the specialist skills, some of the challenges around implementing versions and updates, and it isn't really what they want to achieve. It isn't really the fundamental management of everything just doesn't make sense for their business.
Yeah.
We can delve into that a little bit more, but also the larger law firms are coming to us because they really understand some of the benefits around the compliance and risk challenges. Some of the implementations of certifications that we've got globally would be almost impossible for some of these key firms to achieve themselves. So by coming to us, it allows them to almost offset some of the challenges around storing and encrypting data when they're supplying it to mobile devices, and some of the certification challenges that their clients are putting onto them, they can effectively give to us. So that's sort of why us kind of falls into two camps around management and some of the risk and compliance challenges firms have.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of hype about cloud, and we were having a conversation last time we met about it being like the early days of Windows, that people were taking old DOS systems and sticking Windows on the front, and now if you have a server that's not in the main office, you call it cloud. Tell us about the security aspects of NetDocuments and why you believe your cloud solution is ahead of other people's cloud solutions.
Right, and Charles, I've got to say, I love the comment around Windows dressing 2.0 and the whole idea of something that is basically a previous architecture. So we talk about some of the other technology being N-tier, the classic client server technology has been around for 20 plus years in that frame. And basically what's happening is that those vendors are moving an N-tier application into a hosted environment and calling it cloudifying. And it isn't, we appreciate the difference between a SaaS-based architecture from the ground up compared to a N-tier application that's partially hosted. Effectively what you're doing with a hosted app is that you're moving a bit of the architecture further away, and it's kind of saying that it's in the cloud. What you're really doing
is moving it to Reading.
You're moving your disks to Reading, which incorporates some extra challenges around keeping that route secure, and you've got potentially more people at admin level that are accessing hardware encryption rather than software encryption. So there's a lot more challenges that come into actually increasing the capacity and capability of that solution compared to a pure SaaS architecture. I mean, from our architecture, really we are from the big data perspective. What we can do, we can implement security at the software level completely throughout our system. We can incorporate some of the search technologies that some of the largest corporations in the world use. Because we have the 1.8 billion documents today under our management. That sort of capacity really gives you the ability to bring in some of the economies of scale, and that really differentiates us.
And I was talking to a consultant earlier, and he was saying he likes the fact that the way your data is handled, it's not encrypted, it's broken up into separate components. So effectively, if you did hack into the servers, you'd be faced with a jigsaw puzzle with lots of blank pieces, and nothing would make sense. Can you just explain something about that?
It's really interesting, Charles, because obviously the audiences that we talk to, some of them are really quite technical, and some of them really aren't. And it's trying to find that right balance of explaining. But the way that we work is that today we work in a RAID environment. We have a master server center in the UK in Harrogate, and then we have a backup. That's evolving actually into a 3 data center model. But let's just talk about today for a moment, which will also carry on. Our methodology is that we don't have a client matter folder structure sitting on a disk somewhere that's yours. What we've got is that we have an approach where all of the components of data are broken up across millions of nodes. So the data is completely dispersed. There's effectively no real way in unless you are through the front door. You just can't. Everything is by unique document reference, and there's no tally how to access that. It's also worth mentioning at this point, because of our certifications, the separation of duties really does give a really strong additional layer of security. So people that have access to our software don't have access to the hardware. People that are in the hardware don't have access to the operating system. And then across all of that, we have an external company that monitors all the logs. We can't access our logs, so the logs are monitored. So that type of security, and inability to see the document structure and the way they're organised, unless you come through the front door, really does take us a stronger step away. What is worth mentioning is that this year we're bringing in something called the Object Store, which will again increase the security. We're moving to a position where we're going to have every individual object encrypted by itself, and every key of every object will be processed through a cryptographic vault. And on top of that, we'll also have an ability for clients to hold their own key, that key for the key, by matter, so that they can always revoke a key. So no one anywhere can access that data. So really comprehensive security that totally stands us apart from what you can implement internally.
I was going to say, because I believe the new security standards are coming into force, is it next year? That's a big issue, and this is raising the prospect that it just will be commercially very difficult for a lot of firms to implement those systems internally. But if their clients are saying you've got to have this level of security, that could be a potential client losing scenario. What is the standard?
One of them is SOC 2 Plus.
Right.
So if you look at some of the financial institutions, some of the major financial institutions, they're that's becoming a huge focus for those guys. We'd also have ISO 27001, and there's actually half an arm's length full of certifications that we focus on and are constantly audited on. In fact, we're audited not just by the certification and compliance bodies, but we're audited by our major clients, and we're also audited by the clients of our major clients. This is a major process. On average, I think about 3 significant audits per week go on our system. So, but going back to your point, what we're finding is, again, with the larger firms, the firms that appreciate the value of having the certification process around their document and email management, is that they are taking data from, say, large financial institutions or very sensitive clients, and having this certification requirement effectively passed on. This compliance and risk. We're dealing with risk and compliance teams in major law firms that have significant focus on this challenge, and we've been able to really address what it is that they need to achieve. One thing I worth just quickly mention, Charles, you touched on the acquisition from Recommind of Decisive and the launch this year of NetDocuments email. That's worth mentioning because email has now become the largest object type in our store. So we're seeing, again from compliance, the need to have all content relating to a matter, ensure that it's captured. And what the NetDocuments email piece really brings, both on the desktop within the Outlook environment, is a really powerful way of suggesting what clients and matters this content will be for. Also, across all recipients of an email, just having the deduplication, so you get registration of just one content into the central store. And lastly, and we get huge amounts of feedback on this, it's the mobile processing of email. So the ability for lawyers to actually first touch, send this email that they see correctly to the Client and Matter store, directly into the common repository is a huge value. They haven't got to see it and go, oh, I need to file that later on when I'm in this different environment. Doing that real time on a mobile device, iPads, and, as well as the normal PCs, is a huge boon.
One final question, Mark. I'm seeing various reports coming in, news reports of you winning sites against traditional document management systems. What are the kind of financial benefits or approaches for going with you as opposed to just staying with an existing system and upgrading it to a new version?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, we touched on one of the management pieces.
Yeah.
So, you know, our clients that join us, one of the things that they talk about, obviously apart from the management of all of the infrastructure that they don't have to do, you know, the search index across both documents and emails, you know, all that management goes away. But actually, the real deployment and running to users of that app. What I mean by that is that, you know, if a vendor says, oh, you know, there's all these wonderful things that are coming out in version 10 or 11, whatever it is, and you're on, you know, 8.6, you know, actually for our clients to you know, as a law firm, to implement that solution, you know, often is a really significant task. You know, whether you're a medium-sized, small to medium-sized law firm or a very large firm, that can be really challenging. So that's one of the areas of cost. Another one might be some of the firms are talking about when they want to set up in new territories, or sort of expanding into other geographies.
Yeah.
You know, the massive infrastructure that is required, you know, just to get a desktop running involving, you know, the email and document management solution. Of course, you know, we take away those costs, and really to put it all into a, you know, maintenance-free, just a single per user per month cost. It's a really effective way for you to, you know, financially manage that. Manage that within a firm.
That's excellent, Mark. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, James.